Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
One of the best friends you can ever have is somebody who can make a good cup of coffee. Well, tonight with me at Kingdom Stories from Down Under, we have the amazing opportunity to hear a life story of a man who is one of the best coffee makers that you'll ever meet, also a coffee roaster. But more than that, he is a man of God who loves the Lord, and he shares the beautiful life he has in Christ Jesus. With me at Kingdom Stories tonight, I have Nic Hind. Welcome, Nic.
G'day.
Thanks for making me coffee the other night. It was
No
really
worries.
nice. You still enjoy it?
Yeah,
Making it or drinking it?
all of it.
All of it. The smell?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day, actually.
Can you go past a coffee place and not be drawn, not notice it? You can't, can you?
Yeah, I think you can not notice it, not be drawn to it.
Yeah?
There's so many coffees you can fit in a day.
No, not to drink it, but I think your senses just picks it up, doesn't it?
Even if I can't smell it.
That's amazing. When did this coffee journey start for you?
Oh, it was the first thing I did after I left school. I took a couple of years off, and then Mum said, you better get a job,
Okay.
or rent's going up and you won't be able to afford it, so you'll be looking for somewhere else to live. So I literally just took the first job that came across my awareness, and it happened to be taking orders at a Dome Cafe, and from there I just got a bit obsessed with coffee, to be honest.
When did they let you go on the machines?
I think it took me about 6 weeks to get on the machine.
Because you start on the till, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So taking orders.
Okay.
And then it wasn't long before I was covering my manager while he did stock take, and ended up putting my hand up for a few Saturday morning shifts, which was...
So how do they train you? You are with another barista, or
Yeah,
they do a course?
just on the job. Yeah.
Okay. It's a good place to learn in a place like that, because you have such a large variety of coffee and good machines too.
Well, the one that I used was well and truly due for an upgrade. It was because it was the very first. I think it was the first Dome store in WA. So it was a Cottesloe Dome. It was old, and the machine
At the Indiana
had
house,
knobs on the bottom that you turn to get the water going. Most machines have volumetrics. So it's probably the only Dome franchise in the state at the time that had shots that you had to turn them off manually. So
Okay.
you had to use your eyes to figure out when it was time to turn off the shot.
but a skill which was important as well, because you probably learned things that most people don't even know existed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't long after that where the done thing was to not use the volumetrics at all. The industry's kind of come round on that, but not long after I learnt that, everyone was running, the high-end espresso bars were all running manual shots anyway. I don't know when that changed. We have a decade ago, we started using the volumetric again.
Did you drink coffee before you went to Dome?
Yes. My coffee before I went to Dome was instant coffee with Milo in it.
Oh,
So you'd have one teaspoon of instant,
yeah,
a teaspoon or two of Milo, and then 1 or 2 teaspoons of sugar. Yeah. And always milk first.
Oh, milk first, and really mix it up well. And
it
then
did make a difference. Small steps, baby steps.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when did you actually discover the true taste of coffee?
That depends on what you're going to say the true taste of coffee is.
I mean, to be a connoisseur, a coffee, are they called connoisseurs? What are they called when somebody is...
Snob,
a coffee snob?
geek, nerd.
Yeah.
Probably the first coffee I had that was noteworthy was a short black or a double ristretto from a little shop in Nedlands called Rocket, which is still there.
Yeah.
I think a different owner, it's different setup, different coffee, but that's where I started. Just looking up on the internet where the great coffee places were, and I went there, and I went to a place called Epic Espresso that was at the time was the pinnacle of Perth coffee. Started getting into those kind of
so a short, like a really tiny espresso full of flavor.
And not just espresso either. Like we used to run our shots really short back then. So you put probably 20 grams of coffee in the basket, freshly ground coffee in the basket, and run maybe 20 grams of water through.
Whoa!
Which you probably got a tablespoon of coffee out of a full 20 grams. Really syrupy, a little bit salty, thick.
And was it a one go or two goes? One gulp?
Two.
Two.
Yeah. The small.
And the taste would stay with you?
I think so. Like that flavour, I'd tasted numerous times afterwards. So it's not like probably the most noteworthy coffee is one that I made at home on a tiny little coffee machine, but we modified it to let more pressure through. But yeah, this tiny little machine, for whatever reason, we managed to fluke things, and that particular coffee was pretty stellar.
So your mum was proud of you getting that first job at the Dome?
I don't know about getting the first job at the Dome. Maybe just proud that I actually did something. She was probably just relieved rather than...
Did you grow up in Australia? Were you born here in Australia?
Yeah.
And your parents?
Yes.
Are they... So Hind is a German name, isn't it?
I think so.
Or Dutch?
I don't know how far back you have to go to find anything German.
So both of your parents kind of Australians?
Yeah.
You were born in Canberra?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How did you make it across to WA?
You
got married?
No. We moved over when I was 10.
Okay. So you grew up in Canberra, and siblings?
3.
Older, younger?
All younger.
All younger. So you're the oldest in your family?
Yes.
Were you born with the disability that you have, or you had an accident?
Yeah, born with it.
You were born with that disability.
Yeah.
What is it?
Muscular dystrophy.
Muscular dystrophy.
Yeah.
And is it for the quads, or is it the whole quads?
It's hard. It's a few muscles. Quads definitely, hamstrings, glutes, shoulders apparently.
Okay.
They don't actually know exactly which muscles it affects.
So it took a long time for you to learn to walk as a child, didn't it?
No, not at all.
No?
No. It's degenerative, so you don't notice it
Oh.
later. So we noticed hints of it when I was 10, but didn't know what it was. And then I wasn't diagnosed until I was 15.
Oh, okay. And does it stop the degeneration eventually?
No, it gets worse over time.
Okay. So you notice it even now? It does get worse for you, or it's stabilized?
It's pretty stable at the moment, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So all this in the family, a lot of pressure on you to be a model for your brothers and sisters?
Maybe, yeah.
There was?
I don't know if it was there.
How many brothers and sisters?
3. 2 brothers, 1 sister.
Okay.
The biggest age gap is like 9 years between me and my youngest brother Andrew.
Okay. So still growing up kind of together, doing a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your earliest memory of childhood?
I don't know. Probably doing painting and whatnot with mum at home.
Nice.
I think one of the memories I have is they rolled out this roll of butcher's paper for us. I think it was just Mum.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was Dad as well. Mum. They rolled out this big roll of paper, and we had to put our feet in paint and walk along this piece of paper.
Nice.
While Dad filmed us with an old video camera that fit one of the big, big tapes in the actual camera.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of my earlier memories is jumping on that and walking on the paper and waving to the camera.
Wow. Nice. Growing up in Canberra, up skiing, up in the Threadbows, Perisher, Lookout, no?
Never.
No? Just the
Never
cold
been
mornings.
skiing.
Just the cold mornings
Yeah.
of Canberra.
We used to get these icicles on the grass.
Yeah.
So the little tubes of that spiky ice.
Yes.
It was probably as cold as it got. If you got frost.
Yeah.
Occasionally you'd see snow on the mountains.
Yeah.
I've actually been in the snow during my childhood. But I do remember crunching on the frosty grass. It was frozen solid.
Beach trips down to Eden or anywhere?
We used to go down to Bateman's Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a couple of times we did that. We used to travel up to Kiama when my grandparents moved there.
Nice.
So they were up there, and that was always good. We probably did Christmas there for 4 or 5 years before we moved over to WA.
Were your parents Christians or?
Yeah.
So you went to church?
Yep. As
a kid?
Yep.
Traditional church, more born again kind of Christianity?
We were going to an Anglican church for a while there, and then so that's probably a bit more traditional. But then it wasn't long we moved to another church that was that had a more of an overseas missions kind of focus to it. So it was a Christian and Missionary Alliance church that we started going to in Canberra when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Mm-hmm. And then you moved to Perth.
Yep.
What made that move?
I think there was a job that Dad quite liked the look of when he came over.
What was it?
Head of music for Swan Christian College.
Oh, so he was a teacher?
99.
He was a music teacher?
Yeah.
Okay. And you learned instruments when you were young as well? Did you learn to play?
I played piano when I was 6.
You started at 6 or?
I started at 6, yeah.
Wow.
I played it for a couple of years, didn't really enjoy it.
Was he teaching you or he got someone else?
No, someone else was teaching me.
Okay.
And then I did a little bit more when I was like 10 or 11, probably 9, 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of started up again when I was 13, 14 years old. And started playing in church when I would have been 13 when I started playing keyboard in church, and I'm still playing keyboard
at 14 now.
12 years later? No, 20 years later. Same church, just about the same piano for 20 years.
Beautiful. That's amazing. So he took on the role of head of music at Swan Christian College.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And you moved across, and Mum was working, or she was more home with you guys?
She was home when we first came over. We homeschooled for a few years.
Oh,
so she was busy.
Yeah. So he could have had you at Swan Christian with probably a discount, but your mum and your dad chose to homeschool you.
Yeah.
All of you?
All of us? Yeah, I mean, Andrew would have been 2 or 3 years old at the time, I think.
Wow. So
yeah, it was
did you enjoy
kids with the
homeschooling?
little one. Yeah. I did.
You got to play a lot more than most kids because you would finish your work quite fast.
Well, it depends. I would always get up and running as soon as I could and try and get everything done before midday. And I managed to pull that off most days. I'd be out enjoying the day. And
then you'd have to help your brothers and sisters.
Well, no.
No, they had to do their own.
They had to look after themselves. But it's funny. I was like that, but my brother was very much. He would leave it until the last possible minute.
Okay.
And he could kind of get it done just before Dad got home.
3 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that. To my mind, like,
Because
get
he could.
get it in, get it done. But I think he was.
So you became a self-learner.
Yeah, I'm very much a self-learner.
From what age?
I'd say once I started kind of picking up music, so 12, 13 years old, when I really started to figure it out. I mean, before that, it's just filling your homework, your schoolwork, like just doing the work that people said I had to do, and ticking the boxes, and not putting in any discretionary effort, so to speak.
Did you develop any interest in your early teens?
Mostly music. And it was probably music.
Was your house like a house of worship? Like your dad would play instruments, there's always noise and music in the house, or not so much?
Not really, no. I'd say we made a lot of music at home, but there's we used to play drums for a bit. That was pretty noisy.
Yeah.
And playing a bit of music together, but mostly what I would have done at home was play music kind of with myself. So sometimes, Dad would come out and show me a few bits and pieces, or show me a chord on the guitar or whatever. But kind of at that point, I was out in my little den, learning music on my own.
Nice. What else did you do in your teenage years? What did you enjoy doing apart from music?
I used to play in the mud puddle a little bit. So one of the things that I got into was frog watching.
Okay.
So because we had a creek running through our backyard.
So you were in the Swan Valley or Caversham?
No, up in the hills. So up Darlington Way.
Okay.
So we had a winter creek.
Yeah.
And I look at frogs and plant trees, and I think I was the head of the local Friends Reserve when I was like 15 years old or something.
Nice.
Got myself in the paper for being a bit of a greenie.
Oh.
So that was good. I think I really enjoyed the kind of the regenerative side of that. You put something in, it's going to make things better.
Wonderful. And the disability, so it started at about 10, 11, and gradually made it more difficult for you to walk, or?
Yeah, it did. I don't think it really hit until 16, 17 years old. I was still walking to the train, so I was doing a fair bit of walking in high school.
Were your parents aware of how serious this was?
No, I mean, when I was like 10, I would just start falling over. And we thought it was something to do with my knees, and then it stopped for a while. I presume what actually happened is that I adapted my walking style so that I wouldn't fall over. So I stopped relying on my quads and started using a different walking pattern. And so from there, we didn't really notice, except my shoes wore a little bit too much on the edges. And then when I was probably 13, my uncle let everyone know that he had it. And then about 18 months later, or perhaps even less, I was like, worth getting tested, I think. I don't know what it was. I just kind of have this hunch that maybe things weren't quite right. It would probably been when I was 15. So I was back in a government high school at this point. So year 10.
Yep.
When we found out, I went and got my blood test and passed out. The nurse was mother of one of my schoolmates, so that was embarrassing. But the doctor, we got the test results back.
Was it a shock to your family?
No, we were pretty okay with it. We weren't surprised.
Did you know what it was happening, or did the doctor lay it down for you?
I understood enough, and I think at the time I thought, well, I know that God has a plan for my life, and I know that He's not cruel.
Yeah.
And so whatever this is, it's all part of some thing, and that's okay with me.
Wow.
Um,
Had you encountered God
yeah,
on a personal level?
in a big way. In fact, I feel like it probably was the first decent milestone that happened in my life after committing to Christianity.
Yeah.
So it's like the first time I make a commitment to have Christ as Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
And the first thing that happens is that I get diagnosed with this lifelong degenerative condition, and I was totally ready for it. I think I just took it in my stride. And looking back, it's remarkable that a 14, 15, whatever, 15-year-old would have that level of maturity. And to me, I feel like that's a gifting of faith to kind of trust that God had a plan, and that if this was part of it, this was part of it, and that wouldn't affect that.
Yeah. It's powerful because, others could have been, depressed, suicidal.
Yeah, and I can understand why you would feel those things.
Yeah. But also the family could have been very rocked.
Yeah. Mum's always had a really strong faith.
Mm-hmm.
And as similar, when things go wrong, there's no real questioning.
Yeah.
There, well, it's kind of this understanding that God's still there regardless of what's going on in the circumstances.
Of course. So you finished high school, and what did you do next?
Spent 2 years playing computer games, pretty much.
Oh.
I don't know whether that was
Atari?
a good use of 2 years. No, it was PC. But no, I didn't. It wasn't just computer games, but I played way too many computer games. If you ask Mum, that's what I did. But I drove down to the school a couple of times every day to pick up a few times every week to pick up my younger brother.
Yeah.
And so that was fun, getting around in the car, and yeah, just kind of goofed around.
You took time off just because. I mean, you could have gone to college, you could have gone to uni, TAFE.
It's a funny thing. I was going to go and do music. I was like, I'll take a year off before I do music at uni, and kind of in that time or approaching the end of year 12, I kind of looked at it. I was like, I don't want to do music.
Yeah.
As a profession. And I'm not sure. I think it was probably I realised that it was going to take more effort than I wanted to put in to music. So I kind of let it sit to decide what to do really, and stumbled into coffee.
So that's when you went to Dome.
Yeah.
And that became gradually a career for you.
Yep. I started taking orders. I started working the coffee machine. Got a parking fine, so then didn't want to drive to Cottesloe anymore. So looked for work locally. Worked at the coffee club for 2 weeks.
Were you still living up in Darlington?
Yeah. Okay. It was an hour and 15 minutes to work.
Oh, yeah. That's a long distance.
Got fired from the coffee club after 2 weeks. Got taken off the roster.
Okay. Fired off the roster.
Depends whose viewpoint you're looking at, whether I should have been on the roster or not. Worked out quite well though, because I left there and found another job working for an independent cafe on Beaufort Street. Did barista competitions, and then got a job working in the cafe for the coffee roaster that I
eventually bought out.
Had been using for the competition coffee.
Yeah.
So it's a good story actually, because I kind of was working this role. I was Wednesday to Monday, Thursday to Monday. So I had 5 day week, but it went across the weekend.
Yeah.
and I was kind of trying to do some ministry camps and that sort of thing, and they started questioning my commitment to the position when I wasn't willing to kind of give up my Sundays, and I was kind of missing church fellowship. And I really felt like the Sunday church fellowship was really important to me.
Yeah.
I kind of made the decision to leave. I started questioning my commitment as well. And so then from there, it was straight into another job with this coffee roaster. So started working for them as a barista in February, and by April I was on the coffee roaster. And so I kind of feel like that was a hand. Like I made that decision, and then it was honoured into, a position then. It was really good. When I started working there, I think they were doing 200 kilos of coffee a week. By the time I left, they were doing 2.5 ton of coffee, raw coffee, not raw, roasted coffee beans.
Wow!
Every week.
They grew.
They grew, and so being at the helm of the coffee roaster during that time was a really good experience.
Amazing. How did you meet your wife? In church?
No. No. I went on a band tour to play trumpet in Hawaii.
Wow.
So my dad runs a community band, and he was doing a band tour to Hawaii, and he needed an extra trumpet.
And you've played the trumpet before?
Trumpet would probably have been at one point my main instrument. That would be the instrument that I would have taken and done at university.
Okay.
It's much easier to keep your piano muscles working, at least at the level that I was playing, than trumpet.
Trumpet requires a lot of
3 or 4
practice.
hours. Well, the traditional wisdom would be you'd need to be practicing 4 or 5 hours a day to keep it.
Wow.
To keep at the level that I was at. I think people probably have got a bit smarter with their practice routines these days than they were 20 years ago. But it was a lot of effort to kind of keep it there, and I just kind of fell off it. So anyway, we went on this band tour to Hawaii, and there was a clarinet player that caught my eye.
Oh, in the band?
In the band, yeah. She wasn't a Christian at the time, though, so that was an interesting story.
Yeah.
Because we kind of came back from that tour, and there was a bit of chemistry, and we were kind of hanging out, and I was having this internal wrestle over, dating a non-Christian, or whether I was dating her or whatnot. In fact, at one point I said something in the effect to say that maybe Satan had sent her as a temptation. And she's still around, so yeah. I feel like that, that says something about, I guess her acceptance of me, because, that's not a really great pickup line.
No.
And I was terrified to be going through this. I wouldn't recommend to a young Christian man to date a non-Christian.
Yes.
Because, it's there's plenty of Proverbs speaking into that.
Yeah.
But I actually prayed at one point that she would be taken away. But she wasn't. So I kind of, with great trepidation, went into a relationship with her. And, at some point she said to me that she couldn't believe in God because she would be lying to herself.
It's honest.
Probably 3 months after that, she said she would like to believe in God, but she didn't have the capacity. And then not long after, she let me know that she loved God. During this time, she'd bought a Bible and had all sorts of interactions with, in essence, every Christian who'd had anything to do with her life just came out of the woodwork. And over the period of probably 6 months, she would have an interaction multiple times a week with someone who was a Christian. All these little interactions, people who wouldn't have had a clue that they were involved in some grand game of chess to get a new a new soul into the kingdom. But all these little things added up, and she was kind of reached this point where she was ready to trust God. Well, firstly, she believed He was there, and then that she was able to trust her salvation to Christ. Really, quite remarkable that all this kind of happened, and I think fairly instructive on the way that the way that God works with the gospel. I can't believe in God. I'd like to believe in God, but I don't have the capacity. And I feel like that's a real good description of what we are. We want to know God, but we don't have the capacity without a little bit of help.
That's right.
So that was a roller coaster those few years, but God worked in that, and we have a growing family with 3 kids and a 4th on the way, and love and life. So
praise God.
Yeah, God really.
How did you pop up the question to marry you?
I used origami. She knew it was coming. I think probably because I was being fussy about the weather. But we were up at this mountain campsite, and I woke her up nice and early, and we went down to this
sunrise
lookout, and we sat down with our deck chairs, and I got this piece. So it's a piece of origami called a hexaflexagon.
Okay.
Which is it's like a complicated version of a chatterbox.
Mm-hmm.
And if you flick it around the right way, you can have like 2. There's a message on the outside and a message on the inside. So I kind of made it nondescript on the outside, and then when you fold it open, you can see. You marry me on the inside, and then I have to have a ring.
Wow.
There we go.
That's beautiful.
10 weeks later, we got married.
Wow. Did her parents agree easily?
Yeah.
So in this process, she had been born again, she had been baptized, and...
Not baptized.
Not baptized.
Yeah. It took a while for her to come around to being baptized.
Okay.
She felt that she would be doing it for the wrong reasons early on, because she hadn't thought it through. Like, she didn't want to do it just because people said she wanted to do it. And I didn't. I kind of supported her in that, because it's one of those things that there's a sacrament baptism. If you don't understand what you're doing, then sometimes it's a good idea to wait on those things.
Sure.
So, I think it probably took her 4 or 5 years to come round, and maybe not that long. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was a long time. And we had that conversation a few times. It's just, I don't know. And then suddenly one day she's like, no, it's time.
Wow.
And so, away we went.
Beautiful. And your parents, are they around here in Perth?
Yeah. Cool.
You see them? Okay. Are they in the same church with you?
Yes.
And your wife? Your children, how old are they?
7 in August. 4 just turned 4 February, and then the 3rd she's turning 2 in July.
Wonderful. And now a baby on the way.
And another one on the way. And
beautiful. Like us, we've got 4.
So it's fun.
Oh, you wouldn't change it for the world. Now, you also started Precision Coffee, which was a roaster. You started that about 10 years ago? 8 years ago?
Yep. So registered the business name October 2013.
Okay. So,
kicked off in January of 2014. Mm-hmm.
So that was really going out on the limb for you?
Yeah. I didn't probably realise it at the time, but yes, very much so.
Have you had any business experience before then?
No, I'd had no business experience before then.
So, interesting journey. Great journey.
Yes.
A lot of learning.
Yes.
A lot of long hours.
Very steep learning curve, a lot of hours, a lot of things that I didn't expect that I needed to learn.
Yeah.
Building websites, balancing books, doing sales, managing staff, making processes and systems, so much cleaning. Just a lot of things to learn.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a good journey, that one. So
How many kilos did you get to roast in the end?
I think it was about 450, just shy of 500. So some weeks we did half a ton of coffee.
Wow. And you sold that business
Yeah,
recently?
we sold that just a few months ago.
And they call Timely Coffee now, or still Precision?
Still Precision.
Still Precision.
Owned by, it depends. Depends which the client it is, whatever. It's up to them. As long as the customer's getting coffee and the service that they need, it doesn't really.
The brand.
Doesn't really matter what brand they're running. Some people like it. Some people don't mind what brand they use. Some people have gone to custom branding.
How hard was it for you to let go of Precision Coffee? Because you had built, this was your baby.
Probably took a year to kind of realise that I was done. So by the end, it was pretty easy to let go, to be honest.
It built up towards it.
Yeah, it had done its thing. I was ready for something new.
Yeah.
I was tired.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of slowing down and taking a break for a little while and starting afresh is a really good experience.
Wow. Wonderful.
And it's good to change, I think. It's a new season.
Yeah. Now you're focusing in the season on coaching.
Yes.
What specifically will you coach?
So small business owners who are operating their own business.
Yep.
And want a bit of guidance to spend less time operating the business, whether that's to spend more time at home with the family, whether that's to look after their health, whether that's so that instead of roasting coffee, they can be getting new customers or, all that kind of thing. So, free them up to grow or whatever they need to do. But it's a lot to go from having to do wearing all the hats and then learning to bring people on and kind of stepping up into that role of a business owner rather than someone that's just doing all the work.
And are you coaching the person into using systems? Are you coaching the person more into developing themselves, being raised up to another level of thinking?
Look, when you do anything that grows you in your business, you're going to grow as a person. Mm-hmm. But the focus is more on applying systems so that you can run the business more efficiently and so that you can run yourself more efficiently. Yeah. Because until you've learned how to structure your day well, you're going to have a real hard time structuring your staff members' day, and you can learn to do both of those at the same time. But I think there's a lot of small business owners who are so nose to the grindstone that they haven't actually got time to sit back and get a big picture of things and change and improve their business. And there's leverage available that doesn't require funding, that doesn't require extra time in the week, where you can make yourself more efficient by a few hours and then kind of invest that time into getting more time or more cash back into the business, and then you can get that kind of investment cycle rather than just.
So this is you've applied these principles in your own business?
Yeah, it's very much based off of what we used or what I used with our staff and what our team used to improve and build up Precision Coffee. There was a stage there where I was working probably 15, 16-hour days 2 or 3 times a week, and the other days were 8 or 9 hours. Sometimes 6 days. So 50, 60-hour weeks, which is well and truly more than I should be doing. And more than most people should be doing. And yeah, kind of stuck with this, trying to make things work, throwing mud at the wall, hoping stuff will stick, running around like I had this job like trying. And it was just a long process of learning tricks to get myself better organised, and study of the lean manufacturing methods used by companies like Toyota, who are, have these processes that are all built around continuous improvement, and getting more efficient flow of value through a business and all this kind of thing. And I think they're pretty complex systems, because they're built for these large companies that have, a team of 20 building one particular part or whatever it is. They've got all these complex management systems, and this, they've got coaching built in, and like when you're sole operator, you can't
access them.
Pull and plug. But if you can understand the thinking behind that and kind of simplify it into something that's manageable for you, using those techniques, I suddenly found that my time was getting more usefully spent, and things that used to take us, a certain amount of time would go faster.
Nice.
And there was more flow, and it was more efficient, and it felt like we knew what we were doing.
Have you launched a business yet, or you're still in the coaching business?
I would say we haven't launched it yet. It's close. Got to get a website going, but we'll.
You could do that overnight.
Yes, if you know exactly how to put it in words. It's very good having a concept and a dream for what a business is going to look like, but you need to also be able to put it in words that someone else understands.
Sure.
And so that's the process that I'm going through. Once I can figure out how to communicate what I want to achieve for people, then and that will be a process that I do whilst building a website. So
and there'll be some refining and some rewording and some redefining along the way.
Oh, every test. Otherwise, it would be contrary to its own self. If
Purpose.
The business that was teaching lean was making sure that they had everything perfect and then launched, because it's a permanent struggle for perfection. And
Does it excite you?
Yeah.
This new venture?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. So a new venture, a new baby. What next, Nick? What more?
I will have to wait and see. I think. One day at a time, and we'll see what the next crazy dream that gets planted in my head is.
Yeah. What's the legacy you'd like to build for your kids and grandkids if God decides to keep this world going for a few more centuries?
A desire to know God, and a hunger for Him. If my kids and grandkids know that I placed a tremendous value on that, then that's a life well spent. Especially if the result of that is fruit, and that will come.
How do you define a hunger for God in your own life?
A tangible desire and practice of seeking God. So passion to learn about the things of God. A thankfulness for the good things that God has done, a awareness of God in all things, and actual, like, it's difficult to define that, because I feel like it's something that's, I don't feel like it's something that is inside you.
Yeah.
And like, how does that present? But it's like in your bones.
Yeah.
You relish the goodness of God, and that feeds out into the way that you act, the way that you talk to your children, the things that you teach your children.
Yeah.
The way that you carry yourself, gentleness, kind of like all the fruits of the Spirit, a real sense of purpose and belonging, and an engagement with God in your day-to-day life.
It's beautiful. Well, I hope that you plant that hunger in them, and that you help them hunger and thirst for the righteousness of God. Because if you can put that desire in them, they'll be always seeking Him. And when they seek Him, they will find Him. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story here, Nic.
You're welcome.
Privileged to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, what a beautiful story yet again. I just love to hear and go deep with people to find out what God has done in their lives. And even with Nic here, just the testimony of how he handles everything that has been thrown at him, even in very difficult circumstances. He just takes it on, and he continues to hunger for God. I don't know where you're at on the journey at this stage. Is your hunger still real for God? Do you still seek intimacy with Him? Do you still seek His face? Do you want to know Him more? Maybe that journey was there for a while and now it's dried up a bit, and maybe you should pursue it again. God is there to be revealed. He wants to make Himself known. So I just pray that you open up your heart, create space in your life, and allow Him to fill in that gap, the things that are missing in your life. Because His presence is overwhelmingly beautiful. As long as you hunger and thirst for Him, He will fulfill those desires of your heart. So I thank Nic for this beautiful evening and for what he's shared here. I pray that this blesses you and you develop a hunger for God as well. Hope to see you next time at Kingdom Stories from Down Under. My name is Natanael.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.